Okay, so, true story. It's 2005, and my then girlfriend and I are just getting out of Batman Begins.
Tell us, Mr. Wayne. What do you fear?
She turns to me and she says, "Somebody should have told them they weren't making Spider-Man." And at the time, I agreed, insofar as we'd had, at that point, 4 Batman films, and we all knew who Batman was, right?
Your parents' death was not your fault.
My parents deserve justice.
I cannot let that pass.
So why in the hell does this movie take an hour to get back to...
What the hell are you? I'm Batman.
Now, having watched all those Bat movies a lot more recently than my 2005 self, I can finally travel back in time and answer that. And the answer is, those 4 movies had nothing to do with Batman. Oh sure, they had him in the title, but that was just for box office draw. The first hour of Batman Begins is an extended apology for that, making up for a decade and a half of lost opportunity by literally rebuilding the character from the cave up. Since that only took an hour, we still had plenty of time for a cracking good Batman story on top of the already good origin. Kind of like a good version of Sam Raimi's first Spider-Man. Except the hero wasn't a reactive douchebag, and the villain was actually understandable. Yeah, the years have not been kind to Sam Raimi's original Spider trilogy, precisely because they were flawed from the beginning. Amazing Spider-Man seems to have learned all the wrong things from their failure, and from Nolan's subsequent success. And so, here we are, having finally come full circle. So I find myself walking out of a theater in 2012 saying to pretty much no one, but I don't care, someone should have told them they weren't making Batman. Because Amazing Spider-Man is basically Spider-Man Begins, which isn't really so amazing anymore now that every other franchise in Hollywood has used Batman Begins as their template.
The one thing that has haunted me my entire life is finding the truth about my parents.
From James Bond to Hannibal fucking Lecter, everyone's gone down this road in the name of fielding darker, edgier, grittier, more realistic remakes. I swear the next time I hear those words applied to a film, it's getting the business end of my steak knife collection. I don't care what it is, y'all. I'm through. I don't care if it's Superman versus Godzilla. No more. No mas. No bueno. So this new, darker, and grittier Spider-Man follows the exact same story beats as the last one, except it's a lot longer. What took Sam Raimi 40 minutes takes this movie an hour and 15. But at least it's no longer disingenuously all about a girl. This time it's all about Peter Parker's dead parents. Turns out dear old dad worked at Norman Osborn's company developing something with Dr. Kurt Connors. Peter and Dr. Connors meet up and get along like a house afire, with the leisurely pace giving Peter plenty of time to bond with the surrogate father figure who's destined to become his next supervillain. Because, you know, it's not like that's happened twice in the last 3 movies.
Actually, it's a lot like that.
All of which gets put on hold when a radioactive spider from Connor's lab grants Peter his superpowers. Again. And some random dude on the street grants Uncle Ben death. Peter's vigilante quest for said dude is itself put on hold when Dr. Connors uses a formula Peter supplied to turn himself into an awful-looking version of the Lizard. This, like every other scientific experiment in the Marvel Universe, drives Dr. Connors completely insane. And because he is insane, he gets the hot idea to, say it with me now,
try to take over the world.
Of course!
And I swear I could review this entire film with nothing but internet memes. It's that gutless, that safe, that formulaic. God forbid we enjoy an entire film's worth of Spider-Man being Spider-Man. Why do that when we can pad out our movie with another dry, focus-grouped origin story and plenty of conflict-free primetime high school drama? And guys, look, listen. I don't ever think I'm going to understand this apparently widespread fetish for dragging Peter Parker's ass back to high school. But if you're going to do it, if you have to have your Spider-Man with a heaping side helping of pretty white kids with problems, then can we please cast an actor who isn't almost 30?
take it.
And can we please get a screenwriter who's spoken to a teenager in the last 10 years? Pretty please?
Alright, how about this?
Because seriously, this shit is getting old, and the people you're hiring to write it aren't getting any younger. So Amazing Spider-Man comes to us from the guy who wrote all the Harry Potter scripts. And the guy who wrote Zodiac. Because that's just what pops to mind when I think teen drama meets superhero origin story. The Zodiac Killer.
I bring it! Come on, partner!
Maybe I need to up my medications. Who are you people? Why are you here? What's these goddamn lights? Ugh! No surprise this romantic subplot pops in and out of the story like a flying fish, usually going back under again whenever something interesting happens, like something involving Spider-Man. At worst, it's a distraction from the main plot. At best, it is the main plot, and this movie is exactly the 500 Days of Spider-Man we feared it would be when we heard who was directing it.
You've good taste in music.
Smith?
Yeah.
Either way, the last cook in this kitchen was Raimi series writer Alvin Sargent, who probably worked on this thing when it was still called Spider-Man 4. The Lizard's entire bullshit plotline shrieks to high heaven of another sympathetic villain con job, like the one Sargent pulled on all of you with Doc Ock back in Spider-Man 2. It doesn't help that this whole turn everyone into lizards plot is one of Doc Connor's oldest, meaning that writers have kept coming back to this damn idea again and again and a fucking again for the last 50 years. For example, it's the plot of the first episode of the mid-90s adjectiveless Spider-Man cartoon series.
First you, then everyone.
And every time this plot comes up, I can't help but wonder, what does turning everyone into lizards accomplish?
After you transform everyone, we'll all be like you.
Of course. I'm the first of a new race, a better race.
Is it some warped sense of scientific humanitarianism?
You're not better. Look what you've become.
No! You're twisting things. I can make people well again, and I won't stop for anything!
If so, it would help if the film established Connors as something other than a corporate toady who may or may not have been involved in the Parker's death. He takes the first shot to prevent the Oscorp evil capitalist from testing it out on wounded veterans, which is noble.
Stupid, but noble.
But it's the last noble thing he'll do in this whole goddamn movie. There's even less reason to use this plot now than there was back in the 60s, when at least the lizard had the power to telepathically control other lizards. Same way Aquaman can talk to fish. When he's not trying to do that, the lizard's at his best when he's exactly the Jekyll and Hyde ripoff he's supposed to be, casually terrorizing Connor's wife and son. Neither of whom are in this film. Great job there, guys. Major villain even more one note. Imagine if Sandman's wife and sick daughter weren't in Spider-Man 3. Oh wait, that's right, you don't have to. Speaking of things that disappear, the evil capitalist from Oscorp disappears from the ass end of this movie, right after he's implicated Connors in the Parker's demise. That part's not really clear, either because it got cut out after a disastrous test screening a couple months ago, or because by withholding it the studio thinks we'll have some reason to head to the inevitable sequel. Personally, I don't really want to. The untold story the posters promised remained largely untold, and I don't really care because A, I read this untold story in a comic book about 20 years ago, and B, it wasn't all that good to begin with. So it's a pick and mix bag of crap from the last 10 years of the genre, assembled into an overlong waste of a Spider-Man remake. Most of its plot lines are abandoned in an effort to get itself over with and get to the climactic battle, which goes exactly how you'd expect. Also, it's too short. Even though it's 2 hours and 15 minutes long. I swear, it feels like someone hacked 15 minutes out of this thing. Like they really did make the dark Spider Night we all feared they were going to make and then chickened out at the last minute. Or maybe it's worse than that, since the internet seems to think they were going to rip off, of all things, Ang Lee's Hulk movie. Evidence from the pre-release clips Sony put out in a desperate attempt to make this thing make even a tenth as much money as the Avengers indicates Kurt Connors and Peter's father Richard Parker were genetically designing some kind of human spider, probably for Oscorp, and thus probably for evil. There's a line still in the film about how Richard Parker violated some kind of scientific ethics, probably by testing things on himself. He would have presumably passed something of this on to his son, giving Peter Parker the thing dumb stories love to give their heroes: a destiny.
Do
Did you tell the boy about his father?
No longer the recipient of such randomly bad luck, it's actually been codified in the comics as Parker luck. This Peter would have been fated to become Spider-Man from the beginning.
I was gonna say damned.
Make of it what you want, it's not really in the film anymore, meaning there's nothing in the movie. By the end, all of Peter's father figures are dead, and he's beating up supervillains. Just like he was 40 minutes into the first movie. There's a gigantic hole in the middle of this one, where the whole search for father figures and identity and shit should connect to the fact that a giant lizard is trying to take over the world. Oh yeah, and Peter loves Gwen Stacy, for some reason. They're hot people in a movie. So, you know, what are you gonna do? Presumably, that's where the evil capitalist Oscorp flunky disappeared into, because here's a still frame of him about to get murdered by the lizard, released back in May, by the film's own publicity department. This was back when they were still trying to push all of that untold story bullshit that, as of the end of this movie, remains safely untold. So I'm left wondering, what the fuck, Sony? Why am I paying theater price for an unfinished flick? Oh, is it because the executives didn't like it? Well, fuck executives and fuck what they like. The thing's already a 2-hour and 15-minute adaptation of a 30-minute cartoon show I first saw when I was 12. You might as well let it all hang out there, guys. But no, you didn't want to do that. You wanted to rip off Batman, and the Hulk, and X-Men Origins fucking Wolverine of all things. So was it really all that bad? Yeah, kind of. It's no Green Lantern, and it's better than Spider-Man 3, but... yeah... I know what you were trying to do. You were trying to not piss off the fans, not alienate the core base, and somehow get us all on your side for this pointless, empty, meaningless cash grab. Well, guess what, guys?
You are failed!